Well, good morning to everybody. Blessings on your life. It's another day that the Lord has made, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in it. Um, I'm starting a little bit early today, and I know I sound like I just woke up because I kind of just did. Um, I put together a little something for us because I was torn in between and betwixt of what I was going to present on today because that's just the way things happen in my life in this journey. God just don't readily put it in front of me, and I kind of have a sketch, and then I got to fill it all in, and I may not get a chance to fill it all in until uh, 30 seconds before it's time to come on. Today, I'm going to do a social slash church slash love experiment, and I'm going to leave this set, and I'm going to go to a church that I've never been to before. And I'm going there because I want to see. I'm going to experiment, vet, if you will, to see whether or not there is a certain Jesus attribute that is exhibited in this particular church. Um, this all came spontaneously in the last hour. I got up, and as I go to this church, I'm not going to present myself as I would normally do. I've been taught to make an appearance into a church building a certain way. I am not. I'm going to go in a different attire today. I'm going to look very off the street. I'm going to have my hat on, and I'm just not going to look the part. And I am going to take note of how I am perceived, how I am received, how they treat me. And then I will come back and I'm going to report on that. I'm looking forward to it. This just came up that the Lord told me to do this, and I'm going to report back and see how that went and inform you as such. I'm on this quest just just now because I'm trying to discover. I'm always in the land of discovery, and one of the things that I want to flesh out is, do I love myself? Do I really love myself? And if I do love myself, in what way am I exhibiting the love for myself? Because it's that love that I have for myself that is going to exude out of me and that I will be able to deliver to others. Um, the thing that I have concern with is it a proper love? Is it a proper love? And so we've been talking about altars, and last week we dealt with thorns and thistles, and from a medical standpoint, from a health standpoint. And there's a lot of things that I believe that the church needs to mount up on to take it to the next level because we are the leaders. We are the deliverers for our time, but we have not been good models of that. And so there's a lot of world traits and attributes that we have adopted, and it is killing us. And so God wants us to get back to the basics and to live a life of excellence and to do it according to the blueprint that He has laid out for us in the BIBLE, which is brief instructions before leaving Earth. And so today, I'm going to piggyback on that, and I just got the title, and I just attached. I said, "Lord, this is the same thing we've been talking about altars." And He says, "Yes." He says, "But today, I want you to talk about altars of love, because altars are something that we put our trust in. Something is altars are something that we ascribe to." That we believe in, that we are convicted by. that we will offer something to, a great offering, and that we will pay a dear price for. That's an altar. We set those things up in our lives, and we move forward with those things with 100% 100% conviction that this is the way that we are supposed to go. And so, what better title than an altar of love? But this was derived because I lie in the bed on last night, and I was asking myself questions. And the question, I examined myself, and I want to continue to examine myself because there's a lot of things about me that I want to repair, I want to fix. And so I don't want to come across as in a certain way, a certain posture. I don't want my presentation to be like that. I want to exhibit love. I don't want to come across as conceited. I don't want to come across as arrogant. A lot of these things, and these things can be miscued for different categories, depending on who you're talking to, your audience. But anyway, I'm in this space now where I want to deal with this, and I think a lot of us are in this space. And if you're not, then it's still food for thought. So I want to talk today from the subject "Love Thyself." Love thyself, that's what I want to talk about. And our scripture reference is taken out of Mark 12 and 30 and 31. And it says, "And thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment." Verse 31, "And the second is likewise." Now I'm using the word wise there. It doesn't say that. I'm reading out the King James Version. But the second is like, namely this. So it's like the first one. "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." Underscore that. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We need to examine that. There is none other commandment greater than these. I had to pause at that part. Love thy neighbor as thyself. The concern that strikes me in a very unusual way is, what is that like? How am I loving myself? We all have a definition of love, and we have an expression of what that is supposed to look like and what that is supposed to feel like. And we go about life um, um, exhibiting these characteristics or these attributes, if you will, if that's what it is. The thing is that we all have a a portion, a part, a slant of love, because we all come from God. But are we maximizing this? Are we mining it out? Are we unearthing it to its fullest potential? And I would have to, without totally fleshing this out, conclude that we are not. That we are not. Um, so I wrote down a little something because I want to scurry along today, just because of time, and I want to get to this church. So I wrote a few things out, and I'm just kind of going to go off of my notes on today. Please indulge me. Are we putting on makeup to present the best version of ourselves? Now we talking about this issue of love and love thyself. And sometimes we put on makeup because as we look at ourselves, we don't really find fault, but we want to enhance what we see. And so we put on makeup to make up a difference of what we may feel that needs to be enhanced or needs to be made better. And so that becomes form, fashion of a love language that we express to others. And it's a language that people look at and they say they may perceive that is that we care about ourselves. Or are we putting on makeup to cover up who we really are because we don't love ourselves? There's a dichotomy there. That means on one hand, I can put on the makeup to make me feel good. On the other hand, I put on the makeup because I don't feel good about myself. I don't love myself, let alone like myself. And so I have an issue. And so now the makeup is symbolic of putting on an air. I'm trying to hide behind something because I have a condition. And my condition is I don't really like who I am. I don't care for who I am. And I certainly don't love myself. There is a concern that goes along with this because if you don't, who you are is going to come out of you. You're going to spew that on other people. Hence, we look at Mark 12 and 31, and the latter part says, this thou shalt love, this you should do too as well. Love thyself, or love thy neighbor as thyself. So we see here that we have an issue and we start to put on, to put off. There is a concern there. Now, men have affairs. You know, we still talking about love. Men have affairs. And this is a form now, and you can even look at this scientifically or sociologically. And when you go and what's that? You go see a psychiatrist, but what's the one right underneath the psychiatrist? A therapist. And they often ask questions, why do we do what we do? And a lot of the reasons or the answers behind it, which are their answers, but are not really good answers because we have not unearthed the root cause of why we behave the way that we do. They will respond in certain ways. And so for men, a lot of men, because they don't love themselves, they have affairs. They buy new cars and toys of under the guise of fulfilling their desire or their admiration. Women get tummy tucks and they get liposuction or they get a facelift. Now, all these are just byproducts of love and how we express our love, how we feel about ourselves, and how we're going to um, put that off on our neighbors, be it male or female or our children or whoever. It's just those that are in the purview. Men, I'm going back and forth here. Men get angry and they go off in a rage over small stuff. These are behavioral um, things or ways that are expressed. And the root of some of those expressions is love. And we become sensitive to, just any little thing. And when that comes up, you go off. And it's like, wow, I mean, did that merit that type of response? And so we overreact to certain things. But the issue is, I'm trying to get this cotton out my mouth because I get this certain mouthwash in, and it eats my skin and my inside. And so I have to pick this stuff out. And so at the end of the day, it's there's a flaw, and we're trying to find the flaw that's on the inside of us. But at the root of it, it's a love issue. It's because you don't love yourself properly, or it's because a love that you pattern, a love that you saw, and that love had a defect. It was something that you did not receive, or it was something that you did receive. However it is, the pattern in which you got this, you continue to exhibit it in yourself and by way of others, whether it's proper or improper. And so that's how we do that. So they get angry and they go off over little stuff. They become temperamental. Men and women, they overeat. They overeat. And a lot of people may not think that this has anything to do with love, but it is love. It's some people, they grow up in school and they may be a little overweight, and people call them fat and they call them ugly, and so they resort to eating more, and they just eat and they eat because the food becomes their love language, and that's the way that they deal with it. Some people don't feel so good about how they look, and people, they make fun of them because of this or because of that, and they may resort to food because they find comfort. This is where comfort food comes in, where we get that name, comfort food. It is there to appeal to something that is a deficiency mentally, but it's not correct. It's not proper. It's something that we have been told, and we need to have that corrected. Could it be we don't love ourselves? Um, as a result of this, we have all these conditions and we attempt to raise children and get married. Now, this is really a point of contention and concern, because what we do is we carry these attributes and we carry them over into relationships, and we have children, we bear children, and we get married, and we have all these fragmented things that are going on around us. And at the root of it, there's a love issue. It's these two commandments. It's about God, and then it's about you. But we need to flesh out how God sees love and how that is imputed to you, and then how you are to impute it to others and to yourself. So we get this, we have children, we get married. In other words, we function under what we call normal. That's what we do. It becomes our norm. And I'm concerned today because we have bought into an altar of love, an altar of what we call normal. And our normal now has called chaos in the world. It's chaos in our families. It's chaos in our government. It's chaos in our communities and our schools. It's chaos everywhere. And it all comes under this thing called norm. This is just the way that it is. I will pay for this. I believe in this. I'm convicted by this, only to find out that everything that you are ascribing to is faulty, but you have not come into a saving knowledge of its fault. The patterns that we promote, demonstrate, are marred because by the time we get the memo, the story of the original blueprint has changed 20 times. I thought about it this morning as I was typing on my phone to print this out. And I thought about back when we did the experiments when we were in school. And when we were in school, they would arrange the desk where it would go all the way around the room. And so you would have 25 students in a classroom, and they would start at a certain point, and the teacher would come up and he would say, till the next one. John went down the street, he turned left, he walked 5 steps, and then he turned right. And then he walked 6 steps, and then he turned left. Okay. And I'm just making that up. I don't know, but they would do that. And so he would give that instruction. And by the time it got around to the 25th person, the teacher would say, tell me what was told to you. And the pattern in the blueprint is so skewed by the time it gets to the 25th person that it's like, what? That was totally different. And I mean, but here's the issue. From 1 to 25, everybody is modeling what they heard, what they believe, and they're standing on that, and they're operating in that modus operandus, if you will. And that becomes their truth. They say, well, that's what I heard, that's what I believe. And I think that has traumatized us today. It has got us in a very faulty state, a very faulty condition, because we are living based upon a blueprint that was never given. It was something that was said, and so it's very fragmented. I heard something, but by the time it gets to you, that's not what was presented, but that's what you got. And so now we live in these spaces now that are fragmented. Preaching is marred. Preaching is marred. What Jesus and Peter started is very different today than what it was yesterday or back in those times. You know, now we do a thing called sermonization. We sermonize. This is very pronounced in the Black church, the African American church. And the reason why that is, I'm still talking about love, and I'll connect the dots again here in a few. The reason why that is because slavery put us at a disadvantage. And so we were locked out of a lot of mental technology, as it were. And so we were not allowed to read or to write. But one of the things that they could not take from us was the ability to be creative. Black people are very colorful. They are whimsical. And so if we couldn't read it or we couldn't write it, what would come up in our spirits, we could express it. And so now, even today, because of a deficit that we had many, many, many years ago, we still have a leftover. It's in the freezer, it's in the refrigerator, and we get it out on Sundays, and we get it out on midweek or whenever it is. And we have been conditioned that if you don't tell the story a certain way, that you did not preach. I remember many times, going to church and coming from church and being in church. I heard, oh, he preached today, or she preached today. And all that was contingent upon a certain sound, a certain rhythm, all that, a certain cadence. And if you didn't have the sound, the rhythm, or the cadence, they would say that you did not preach. Now, out of that sound, that rhythm, that cadence, oftentimes you would not see the change in people's lives that merited Jesus, that typified Jesus. But when they got finished with the sermon, people would walk away and they would feel better. No different than if you went to a club, if you went to a party and you heard a certain song and it had a certain beat to it, a certain tone to it. If you went there feeling a certain way, by the time that music got to you and you fellowship with the people, you would feel differently. It does not mean that when you leave the club that your circumstances are going to be any different. So with that, I'm still trying to get to this place now called love thyself, because what we discover is, as we go around the room and as the story has been told, when Jesus came to preach, according to Luke 4:18, to set the captives free. And then Peter, he says, upon this church, I'll build my church, upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And so Peter was the one that started preaching. He was, according to the book of Acts, He started the preach word. And then as his preach word went about, we saw the deliverance in people's lives. And he went on to say, these are not drunk as you perceive, and so on and so forth. As that migrated and evolved, it went around to Catholicism. It got into Catholicism, and that's where you get the popes and all that stuff. And so that's a Eurocentric style. But from Peter, from Jesus to Peter, from Peter to the Pope that we have now is very different than the preach word that Peter preached from Jesus. Very, very different. That same model has migrated even into our Western way of thinking and preaching and believing and being convicted by. And so we have set up this altar now, and we believe that this is preaching. We believe that this is Jesus. We believe that this is the model, when in essence it may not be the model at all. It may be a form of it or a version of it, but we need to continue to dive deeper to discover more of it. As I've said before, we need to discover a Jesus that we do not know or that we did not know. Now, modesty is marred. Modesty is marred. When Paul talked about being modest, it was not the the thing that we see on the streets today. What we see on the streets, or maybe even in the church, is not a form of modesty. Modesty has taken on a different definition. It's a different form. It's defined differently. The look is different. And so that story now, something has happened with that story where it does not look according to the way Paul saw it, taught it, or expressed it. It's different. It's been marred. Education has been marred. Education now is not about language. It's not about speech. It's not about grammar as much. There's emphasis on it, but very small. Education now is more about me convicting you on a way of life. And that's where we've migrated to. We still have mathematics and science and things like that, but it is overshadowed by I want to influence. So education now has a serious push by way of influence, and I want to influence your mathematics. I want to influence your science. I want to influence the way that you speak in a certain way. And so it's just different. There's a change. May not be significant, but there is a change. I'm just trying to get you to something because I want to get this health piece to you, and that's because I have to go. Health is marred. Health is marred because of technology. We use microwaves now, but the original blueprint didn't have microwaves because we didn't have that technology. But is technology promoting us to health, or is technology promoting us to our demise? And so because there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of knowledge, we don't understand that the thing that the microwaves are doing to our food is actually killing us. But because of our fast pace, because of the cares of the world, we mind it, and we continue to live our lives under this microwave generation or this instant generation, because we don't care, or we don't know, whatever the reason is. This is the space that we live in now, but it's marred from the way it really was. And I can go on a tangent with that because there's so many things, because I want to get back to thorns and thistles, and I'm going to get back to thorns and thistles and health and all that, and how we need to promote life, and how that needs to come from the church in a way that the world has not seen it before in a long, long time. We've got to get back to that. Our nutrition is marred, and that's kind of what I was just saying. Our nutrition is marred. Our wealth is marred, because wealth now is defined by how many Benzes do you have, how much money do you have, What's the brand of the clothes that you have? And I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking that you want a Mercedes, you get one. If you want a Rolex, you get one. If you want a Louis Vuitton, you get one. I'm not knocking that, but I'm looking at the balance of it. And so the definition has been marred. That is not wealth by biblical definition, but that is a wealth interpretation that we have embraced, and that is now our definition to a great deal. A lot of the weight from these conditions fall on mama, daddy, and them. We say mama and them. So it falls on mom and daddy and them. What we saw mom and them, daddy and them do got us conflicted. A lot of it. Now I know, a lot of, people don't like me to talk about mama and them, daddy and them, auntie and them, grandma and them, grandpa and them. But we are a sum total of what we come from. So in essence, this is still a message of the bloodline, and it's also a message of environmental. This is how we have come to define love for ourselves. We become the sum total of the blood that is inside of us in the environment that we have been raised in. It becomes the coach now. It becomes the blueprint or the guideline for the way that we should love. The issue is they thought that they really loved, but they really didn't. They had a form of it, but they really didn't. And okay, so I said that part already. I'm not going to repeat that now. So let me wrap this up. This just in short, this is very truncated. So now the question is, what is love? All right. So we talked about love. We saw the issues of love. There's a conflict of love. We see how we can start to interpret how things can get misconstrued and all that. And it becomes our conviction. It becomes our altar because we lift those things up. And I just gave you examples of a myriad of ways of how we can live our lives out, and we can be convicted. We can believe this. So we have to ask the question, what is love? And so there's a template. And without me really going deep into this, because I got to go and do this social / church experiment, right? The template is agape love, phileo love, and eros. There's actually four more, but for the sake of brevity, and we don't want to get in, and we don't really practice these other ones anyway. Let me just deal with these three in short, and then we'll close for today. So we say, what is love? And so the first thing we have to look at is God for our template or our blueprint. But again, I showed you how things can get distorted. So when we look at agape is a love from the cross. Okay, it is a vertical love, right? And we need to understand this, and this has been expressed and demonstrated, so-called demonstrated in many, many ways. In fact, I'm going to see whether or not it's demonstrated today, a form of it. And so it's a vertical love. It's love that God looks down upon, and he makes up the difference. When Adam sinned in the garden, there was no way for Adam to make his way back to God. And so God had to come to Adam in the cool of the day, because the greater always has to come to the lesser, because the lesser does not know how to make up the difference. And we live in a space now to where we don't know how to compensate for the difference of people. I struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with that. We look in our government, they're struggling with that. And this is where you get hate from, because we don't know how to make up the difference for. The difference for a deficit is love. And if you don't have that measure of love, then you can't absorb what somebody else is lacking. The other thing is, it's the first line of the cross. So if we look at the cross, the cross is vertical. and it is a love from, let's say, north to south, or from top to bottom. So it's from on high to on low. And so God so loved the world. God so loved the world. That is an agape love. An agape love was also demonstrated in the Ten Commandments. When you look at the first four commandments, I believe it is, don't quote me on this, but it's either the first three commandments or the first four commandments. They are commandments that are strictly related to God. It is strictly related to God. Now, I'm not going to go over the Ten Commandments, but you go back and you look at them. And so they have a direct tethering, a direct relationship to God, the first three or four. And so it's how a relationship is between you and the Father, between the Father and yourself. And you have to get that part first. That's the reason why they are the first three or four commandments. You have to get that part first. If you don't get that part first, you cannot get the next word that we're going to really look at, and that is phileo love, or where a lot of people look at the city Philadelphia. It is a brotherly love. It is a heart to heart. It is a breast to breast. It is a cheek to cheek. Now we get that heart to heart and breast to breast and cheek to cheek kind of confused a lot of time, because we don't know how to relate breast to breast, and we don't know how to relate cheek to cheek, and all that. We don't know how to know how to relate touching hands, because now this becomes a horizontal love. It's phileo love, but phileo love is an expression of agape love, but it is after the fact that you have been taught, that you have been nurtured, that you have been matured in a certain relationship with God, that you know how to handle your brother. This goes back into our scripture in Mark 12:30 and 31, because he says the first one is with him, love him with all your heart, your mind, your soul, your strength, and all that. And the next commandment is to love your love thy neighbor as you love yourself. It's to do likewise. So that becomes the phileo, that becomes the horizontal love. But you can't do it unless you get verse number 30 right, and that is loving God the right way. And so we have now taken, we went around the table and God said to do this, to love this way and this way. And by the time it got to the 25th person, we loving with a certain bass tone. We loving with our tongues. We loving with our hands inappropriately on breasts that are not ours, on people's behinds, and all that type of stuff. And we loving with our fists closed, and we loving with open hands. We love in all kind of ways now, and we express that as a version of love, or a version of love that we did not receive. And I'll get to this part, because this thing came up in me, because I'm examining myself, and I'm looking at. There was a lot of good that came to me, but there was a lot of detriment that came to me. And I expressed the detriment even to people that I loved. So I said that I loved, but my execution of that, my delivery of that was very skewed. And it was skewed because that was my example. And so mama nim and daddy nim and auntie and grandma and grandpa and uncles and all the folks that you looked at, you didn't get a good blueprint. And so when you don't get the good blueprint, something happened to you in the love process. And so it becomes your truth, it becomes your delivery, but you're delivering the wrong thing. And so you have agape, you have phileo, and then we have our last one that we'll talk about today is eros. And eros is a physical love. It is a spontaneous love. It is a very sexual love. And most of us, we exhibit phileo, and we tether it to we exhibit eros, and we tether it to phileo and agape, but it's very marred, it's very contaminated because God ain't in it. One of the things that I've learned and I try to teach, especially if I'm talking to young men, when you see a woman, you see the woman or the girl as your sister. Okay. And then you see the girl as your, or the woman as your friend. And then you see her as your lover. Okay. So it's sister, because a sister, you don't try to put your tongue down your sister's throat. Okay. Without knowing her, without it escalating to that place, without it getting to a place where that's the proper thing to do. And then you become friends. We skip a lot of places, you know, we skip a lot. And so we go straight from, I've only known you, this generation is, I've known you for a couple hours, and we hitting the sheets, and we do what the young folks say now. We clapping, we clapping, whatever they call it. Is it clapping the sheets or clapping something, whatever they do, but they do that now in, you know, within hours. It used to be, you know, get a day. It went to hours now. And it used to be, you know, give me a month to 3 months. And it used to be 6 months. And it used to be, it's going to be a year, because women valued themselves different. And even men did too. It was a different type of respect, and it was a different type of virtue, and they honored themselves, and they were taught different. And again, the evolution from Jesus to Peter to the popes to the Western civilization, from the story that was told at chair number 1 to chair number 25, it's all gotten skewed. But regardless of how skewed it's gotten, we still live by it, and we say this is it. So now you see the women, there's nothing left to be desired. When I go out on the street, I walk downtown, I see everything. So there's nothing that I'll say, well, you know, if we do get together, it ain't nothing that I ain't saw already, you know, because you had all that out. I mean, everything, you got everything out. And so there's nothing left to the imagination or none of that kind of stuff. But that becomes eros. And out of eros, you expect now for that man or that woman to treat you right. You expect now for the marriage or the relationship to last. You got all these different holes that's in it. You know, it's just fragmented, and you expect an outlook of wholesomeness to be wonderful. All right. So now, love is giving. This is just a quick definition of what love is. Love is giving. So I gave you agape, phileo, and eros. But here's what love is. Love is giving. It's not taking. It's giving, it's not taking. For God so loved the world that he gave. Love meets the need of those downtrodden. See, this is a part, and I really need time to flesh this out. But it meets the need. Love meets the need. Love is the one that, you know, it's. I had 100 lamb, I had 100 sheep. 99 are with me, but one was lost, and I'm gonna go back and get that lost sheep. Because of love, because I don't want to see it because lost. It means so much to me, right? Love, love meets the need of the downtrodden, the sick, the hungry, those that are in bondage. Love covers a multitude of sin. But now I want you to understand this is a different love, because this love now is the correct blueprint, and this love has purpose to it. So we will say, well, I do love. And a lot of us, we got love. I saw love from mama. I saw love from daddy. I saw love where mom gave, and I thought mom gave too much. I saw a love that mom was compassionate, but sometimes it was over compassionate. Sometimes love is resistance. And so there has to be a balance. And when you have purpose, and when you're purpose driven, God shows you how to love and to love it correctly. Mothers these days, when they have a son, they give their sons everything. They let their sons get away with murder. And they say, well, I love my son, but it's not, you didn't, that's not love, because that love is not preparing him for the world. Fathers, they say that they love their children, but they won't go to work. Or they're missing from the home, or they do things that's going to get them in prison or get them killed. Well, you didn't love me, because if you did love me, then you would have thought that thing through a little more than what you did. Love covers. Love dies for the least of them. This is what Jesus did. And again, I don't have time to really, flesh this thing out. Love suffers in the spirit. It suffers. It's forbearing. It's tempered. It's long suffering. Love is a strange thing, man. That the whole world was built on love. So we can do a dissertation in a dissertation in a dissertation and still won't be able to exhaust this one word called love from God. And there's so many expressions of love that the enemy has put before us and contaminated, that we need to correct it's wrong in our lives. Love is driven to complete or to finish the assignment. Because the other thing that I've noticed is that what we say we love, but then we run out. We run out. We don't stay. We don't finish. We don't complete our course or our task, and yet we say that we love. I gotta go. It's 9:41. I gotta go. I'm beyond my time. I'm going to go and do this social experiment, this social church experiment. Pray for me, but I'm going to go and I'm going to test the love at a church that I have not ever been to. And I'm going to wear a version of what I have on now, but I'm getting ready to mess this up. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to act unorthodox, not behaviorally, like, I'm not going to do nothing wrong, but I'm going to go in like I'm a person off the street. But I want to see how I am perceived, because I am of the persuasion that we have issues. And so I'm doing this because also I want to be a solution to the problem, but I want to see it. Okay. I don't want to see it from familiarity. I want to see it from a place that I am not familiar with. And this is I'm not going to go and visit a church that would normally see a person like me. I'm going to go and I'm going to present myself to people that may not readily see me on a regular basis, but I'm going to be in a social construct that is going to shock the norm, if you will. Dr. Martin Luther King, and I'll say this and I'll close, I'll paraphrase. He said that 11 o'clock on Sundays was the most segregated time of the week. 11 o'clock on Sundays was the most segregated time of the week. And I am a believer of that. And so let's go and see if it's any changes. I want you to have a blessed day today. Go in God, and God will go with you. I am Dr. Donnie Eatman. I am the face to face to face. I want you to share this with a neighbor, a friend, and an enemy. Until we meet again, shalom.